This is the third video, the last in a three-part series providing an in-depth overview of the GreenFox baseball spreadsheet. These videos do go in order, so if you haven't already watched the first two videos, I would recommend you watch those before you watch this third video. To wrap up the league creation part of this video series, I'm going to do a little demonstration of creating a league. I'm going to create a historical team season for the 1973 A's. So let's see how to do that. So I just have downloaded or have the latest version or GreenFox at the time of this video, which is 4.4. And when I download it, I unblock it, as we mentioned before, and then I launch it, I get this welcome screen, as I call it, with these four big buttons on it. And I'm going to choose this green one here. This is Create a GreenFox League. I also want to mention here, you can kind of see that the score sheet mode shows question mark league, which means it's kind of ready for you to create a league, but there isn't one currently configured. So I will click this button, and then it switches me over to the league help sheet that we had talked a little bit about in the video already. And I'm not going to read all this information here, but basically it's just kind of giving me some tips and advice on how to go about it. But really, the steps are right here. I find which type of league I want. So I'm doing historical team season, so that's this column. Here's the link to the video up here, but I don't need to see that. And I'll just kind of look at these couple and then these first few steps, and we'll kind of just talk through it, and I'll start. But it basically says start with a new version of spreadsheet, which I just downloaded it, so it is. And if it's because it's a historical team season, I want to make sure I have the kind of companion retro sheet data helper spreadsheet for my desired season. And I have that because here is my 1970s data sheet. So this is GF3 retro 1970s. This may change later to GF4 or 5 or whatever, I'm not sure. But the point is it's retro 1970s, and this is a little acknowledgement saying where the data came from. But you can see down here at the bottom of the tabs, it has all the years for the 70s. And all I have to do is make sure that's open and in the background. I'm just going to minimize it with this button up here. So that's 3 and 4. And basically now we're up to number 5. We already opened it. Step 6 is go to the league sheet, and 7 and 8 are create the historical league. So let's do that. I'm going to go back to the score sheet a second and use this little navigator just to show that. So I'm going to click up here to the league setup. Now go to the league setup sheet. So you can see down here I'm on the league sheet. And start here, which is select league mode. So I click in this yellow box. If you hover in this, it'll give you some tips. Anything that has a red triangle, if you hover in it, it'll tell you information. So I'm going to click in here. It gives me a little drop down. I choose HTS for historical team season. Then it says enter the year in the yellow cell. It shows me this cell. I'm going to enter the 4-digit year, so 1973. And when I hit enter, because it found that helper retro sheet spreadsheet that's already open in the background, it knows all the teams from 1973. And here it's telling me to select which team I want. Also in here, it does kind of give the instructions here too of what to do. So here are all my teams. I'm going to pick my Oakland A's here. And then it tells me to click the purple button. Okay. I could also switch teams if I wanted to. I'll click this purple button. This is where it's going to read the data off that other spreadsheet. This is a note saying because there was no interleague play in 73, it's only going to load American League teams. That's okay. You can kind of see over here in this little where you name your sub-leagues and divisions, it only shows the American League. And also here, when we loaded this, it already kind of set these up with one sub-league and 2 divisions. I say okay. So now it only shows American League. This is just telling me it could take a couple minutes depending on your computer setup. Click OK. Excel does some Excel things. It's moving a bunch of data around, populating some sheets with a lot of goodies. And then hopefully you'll get this message that says success. And that data has been put into the league, the MPL, rosters, and the schedule. It says take a look and make sure things look good. And then click the black validate league settings button, which that's up here. I should to guide me through the remaining steps. So I'll scroll up here. Here's that button. But if I use this little button, the navigator button, if I look at this master player list, here are all these players that played in the American League that year. It says there's 421 of them. If I look at the rosters, it's almost the same, except the rosters if a player played for 2 American League teams, he'll be on both team rosters. You'll have to figure out when you want to play them or how you want to do that. But in the master player list, each player is only listed once with the first team that they played for that year. There won't be anything in the lineups because the lineups in a historical league are already preset for all the games. So this is where you'd make your own custom lineups if you wanted to remember, but you don't really need to do that for a historical season. In the ballpark list, you don't need to worry about it all. So let me go back to the league setup. Oh, let me also go, if I go to the main, I go to the schedule. The schedule is really kind of in league setup and main. Maybe I should put it in both because you use it both when you're setting it up, but also once you're playing your league, you'll use the schedule a lot. But anyway, here's the schedule. For the 1973 A's, it has 162 games on it. It says that we haven't played any of them yet. And here they all are, including who the starting pitchers were. And over here, if I scroll here, these are all the starting lineups for the teams. So that looks good. So let's go back to the league sheet. I'll now click this black button like it told me to. And it tells me my league ID isn't set and I need to fix it. So that's right up here. These 2 boxes here where it says enter. I need to put in a name for my league. So I'm just going to call this my 73 Oakland A's replay. And my ID, which doesn't really matter much, I'm just going to call this 73 Oak. You really never see this if you're playing by yourself. Now I'll click this validate button again. And it now has configured my standings. It shows postseason up here by default, but that'll go away once we finish the league and get it all set up. And it tells me that this is all looks good. I click OK. Then it gives me this box where it's asking me if I want to lock my league settings. And when you lock your league settings, that means you can't add any teams or switch them around for which division they're in. If you wanted to pick a different team or start over, here's where you'd say no and you could start over. But since this is what we want, I'm going to say yes, I do want to lock my league settings. This tells me good. I'm not going to go through all this other stuff, but That's talking about player ratings that you may or may not want to do. After you click OK, it'll configure the score sheet to work in league mode. And that's what it's doing now, is setting some things behind the scenes to get it ready for your league. You can see now up here in this league mode on the score sheet, it doesn't say question mark league. It now says league HTS because it's setting it up for that historical team season. It's successful. I can now click the game ID cell to load lineups for a game. And this is a little thing saying about it will automatically have the as played lineups, but you can always modify them as needed in case you don't have those players. So here's the game ID that we can click to load a game. So if we click this, you can see now it bumps us automatically to the schedule sheet and tells us to pick the game ID that we want to play. GreenFox doesn't make you play the games in order, but if you do want to keep track of injuries or hitting streaks and things like that, it's good to play them in order. So here's my game ID column. I'm going to click this first one against the Twins, where we got Catfish Hunter going up against Burt Bly 11. So let's click this. This is a warning saying there's no stats generated for your league yet, so there won't be any stats to show you for the players. This is showing it for both teams. So here we are. It now has loaded this first game starting lineups into the score sheet. Here's Catfish Hunter against the Twins lineup. We can scroll down here and see Burt Bly 11 going up against the Oakland A's lineup. And you're basically ready to go. If you needed to change somebody here in your game or whatever that you don't have in your league, you could do that. I'm trying to think if there's anybody here that you might, but if you did, you could simply just click on their name and it'll say, do you want to switch this player? And you could say yes and put in somebody else to catch. If I want to put in Glenn Borgman to catch. But basically, that's how it works. That's how easy it is to set up a historical team season league and get going, start playing your game, and start generating your stats, and start having fun. This next section of content covers GreenFox stats, which are likely a reason that you're even using GreenFox is so that you can track and look at these stats. And GreenFox uses 9 different sheets to keep track of stats. One for the league leaders, and then 2 groups of 4, I'll call it. There are the game log sheets, and 4 season or cumulative stat sheets. And for each of those 4, they're broken up into players and teams and batters and pitchers, and that's what makes up the 4 sheets for each one. So let's take a look at each of these. So here's the league leaders in kind of a collapsed view that you can see all the different categories for each batting and pitching. I apologize. This purple's a little bit loud when you just see all the headers, so maybe you got to put your sunglasses on to look at this. But you can see there's a lot of categories that it computes leaders for, and some, those with the asterisk, are those that it applies a minimum number of plate appearances or innings pitched to qualify for those particular statistical categories. And at the top of it, like here, it tells you like what was used in this. It'll try to figure out what's the least number of games that every team has played, and it'll show you that when you compute your stats, but it'll also give you the option to change it to whatever you want to use, so you don't have to use that. But in this example, each team was using 35 games, and then 35 times 3.1 gives 109 plate appearances are required to qualify for the batting average title and such. Similarly, for whatever your minimum number of games is, that's how many minimum number of innings pitched you need, I believe. So that's that. Again, this is showing them in a collapsed view. but obviously typically you want to expand them so you can see what's there. So here's some batting leaders. This is from an actual GreenFox user doing some custom replay of, I forget what season it is, but he was kind enough to let me use his spreadsheet for a couple of these screenshots. So this is showing some batting, and it's also kind of showing the feature of you click on a player's name in the leaders, it'll highlight that player in all other categories. So if in here you could just see what the various places that Riley Green is in these batting leaders. Similarly for pitching leaders, it works the same, but also you can see as an example down here I showed if you click not on the player's name, but if you click on the player's team ID cell, then it'll highlight that team in the other category. So here you can see all the Mets, who's have an ID of NYN, I think it's New York National League. You can see all the different Mets in these pitching leaders. So those are examples of the leaders. Look at these game log or look at the other stat sheets. Here showing both the batting and the pitcher game log. And in each of these, in all these stat sheets, they have a header whereby you can use to filter or sort all the records or all the rows in the table. So this is just showing it sorted by this lineup. This isn't sorting it by lineup player name. It's actually being sorted here by the season game number because it shows this little symbol here. But you can do that for all of them, and that's kind of a convenient feature when you want to look at something. So here's an example of looking at the batting player game log that I filtered for Willie McCovey. So you can see here I have his name chosen. You can see this little filter here. So I chose Willie McCovey. Then I have it also sorted by the season game number. So it's kind of like his personal game log where you can see how he's doing. Here's a player game log for pitching that I did for a replay project for Mark Fidrich for 1976. So you can see how he was doing, which was a lot of fun. So here are some team game logs, and these team game logs are a little bit, I don't know if I say extensive, but there's some extra information. It doesn't just show the team stats, which are over here on the right, but it also shows the results of the game, the score of the game, who the opponent was, and who the opponent's starting pitcher was, as well as the team's starting pitchers. So you can kind of see the pitching matchup and how you did maybe against certain starters. And this note at the bottom I'll mention here that when you save the results of a game in a league, only the player and team game log stats are updated. No season stats are automatically computed when you save your game. You can always compute them whenever you want to, but it doesn't automatically do it. So here's a screenshot of some season or cumulative player batting. And again, it shows the same thing, or alert where it's telling you that the season stats are only computed when you click a button to do so. And they're not automatically computed because it takes a few seconds or more to compute them depending on how many games you've got and how fast your computer is. So, and typically people don't want to see them after every game. Maybe you want to play a whole series of your league and then update your stats. But again, this is kind of showing, this is sorted by at-bats in this particular screenshot. And these first set of categories are all basically the same categories that are on the score sheet. But from 21 to 30, these are, I'll say, additional statistical batting categories that are computed, like singles, total bases, plate appearances, their average, their slug, their OBP, their OPS, their stolen base percentage. This is their season hitting streak and their current hitting streak. So that's the season player batting, which is always a favorite. And here's this similar one for pitchers, and this one I happen to sort by strikeouts, you can see here. But over here from 28 on, these are the computed pitching categories of WHIP, ERA, and various things. You can see those here. Let's move on to the team stats. This is season team batting. So, and this one I sorted by the runs scored, and you can see here at the bottom these totals. When you total up the teams' seasons, these are your league totals. So in this one, you can see what your stats are for your entire league compared to maybe individual teams. So those are. Oh, here's the season team pitching stats. So here I sorted all these team stats by ERA. And I believe that's the last. Yeah, that's the last of the stat sheets. So that kind of covers the 9 different stat sheets that GreenFox keeps track of all your league stats. These last few slides, I'll cover a few odds and ends, but definitely not nothing to be overlooked. So this first feature is probably the newest feature, and that's postseason within custom leagues, starting in version 4.4. So it gives you the ability to identify postseason games on your schedule if you have a custom league. And once you've played at least one postseason game, when you compute your cumulative stats or your season stats or your leaders or your standings, it will prompt you to, and you can choose whether you want to compute them for the regular season or the postseason. So that's kind of what these screenshots are showing here of when you have it in postseason mode. It gives you this little label that tells you that it's for the postseason. Another feature is the multi-user feature, and what that is a way to use GreenFox with multiple people. And you could use this for in a competitive league situation, or when you're kind of in a cooperative project where you're all kind of helping out to play the games for a given project. And there are what I call 2 different modes. There's the single spreadsheet mode or the multi-spreadsheet mode. If we talk about here the single one, there's just a single GreenFox spreadsheet, and the leader of this will basically handle all the GreenFox duties, if you want to say that. So whether it's a co-op project or a league, but if that person will receive the completed score sheets from the other project participants. So maybe they're playing on paper and they send their games in or email them, or however they send them to the GreenFox leader, and then that person will enter those score sheets into the GreenFox score sheet spreadsheet and compute the stats for each of those games. So that's one way where only one person's really playing their games in it, but everybody else is playing on paper or something else where they can send a printout or something to this person who will then manually enter those games back into the score sheet so we can compute the stats for the entire league or project. The other mode is what I'm calling multiple GreenFox spreadsheets, and that's here at the bottom. Oops, sorry. In this, you have one person who's kind of what I'll call the league spreadsheet coordinator. And what that would mean is this is where everybody, or maybe multiple people, it doesn't have to be everybody, but ideally if it were everybody, then what would happen is the coordinator would prep the spreadsheet by updating the league schedule and basically getting it set up for the next round of games, whatever that is. And then that leader would make sure that everybody knows what games they're supposed to play and what time frame, which is kind of standard for these kind of projects. And then the single copy of the GreenFox spreadsheet would be distributed to all the users so that they all have this same copy, and they would use it to play their games. So they would each play different games though. So after each participant records their games within the spreadsheet, they would then send their updated copy back to the league coordinator, and that person would import the results of those other spreadsheets into the what I'm going to call the master copy. And that is done using the schedule sheet. And you can see here on the screenshot I've highlighted this import completed games button. And what would happen is if I were the coordinator and somebody sent me a spreadsheet, I'd open that spreadsheet up in the background, kind of like when you're creating your league with the historical retro sheet data. But have that spreadsheet open in the background, then I have my league open or my spreadsheet open. I click this button, it'll ask me, hey, do you want to import some games? It'll first double check that spreadsheet has the same league ID and a couple other things to confirm that it looks like it's jives with the current league setup in the GreenFox. And then what it'll do is look at the schedule and identify what games have been completed in that spreadsheet but are not completed in the master copy spreadsheet. And then it'll ask the coordinator, do you want to bring the results and stats for these completed games into this GreenFox spreadsheet? And if the user clicks yes, it does just that. It brings in all those stats and results for those games. And the league coordinator would just do that for each person's spreadsheet, and it only takes a few seconds. And then all the played games are then recorded in a single spreadsheet. And then you kind of repeat these steps 1 through 6 by then giving everybody that new updated copy, and they play their games on it. They send them back. All those results are imported into a single copy and rinse and repeat. And that's how you could do a multi-user project using multiple spreadsheets, but you have one as the league coordinator or the master copy. That may sound a little confusing, but if you have any questions, reach out to me. Another feature within GreenFox is the automatic or auto dice roller. I sometimes call it e-dice, dice sheet. And this is just a way that GreenFox allows you to configure custom dice and roll them electronically. And it shows them in a little pop-up window. So here's an example of the pop-up window down here. Here's an example of how on the dice sheet you would configure your dice. It can handle up to 16 dice in this 4x4 grid. So you can, and these are all the different colors you can have. And you can have a die from 2 sides to 100. You can even have some special custom ones, but I won't get into that right now. But the idea here of how you set up your grid of dice is, as you can see on this picture, there's only one roll button per row. So it rolls all the dice that are on the same row at once. So you can figure out how you want to do it. So for different games, you have different dice, and this is a way to set that up, and it can be convenient. So that's the dice roller. It's totally optional, and you can change it at any time. And this dice window that pops up is kind of like the League Navigator window, where it's even while it's up, you can still interact with the spreadsheet. So you don't have to keep opening it and closing it. It'll just stay on top of your score sheet wherever you want to put it, so that it's not in the way. That's the dice. Upgrades. I think, other than automatically computing the game stats, I'd say the upgrade process is probably the second best feature in the whole spreadsheet, because it's so simple. Basically, just as I said here, click and follow the yellow brick road. But I've outlined here on the left how to upgrade. And the upgrade process in general is maybe a little different than most software programs. So in GreenFox, when you upgrade, you kind of start with the new version that has no data in it, kind of a blank spreadsheet, but it has the new version or the new features. And you upgrade by copying or pulling your old data into this new spreadsheet. So that's a little bit different. So you kind of copy your existing spreadsheet data into the new spreadsheet. Or you kind of like you copy your league data into the new spreadsheet so you get the new features. So here, let's just look at these steps 1 through 4 over here on the left, where it says, first you download the new GreenFox spreadsheet from the Facebook group file section. Once you get it, if you're on a PC, you have to unblock it. If you're on a Mac, you don't. And then open up the new GreenFox file. And when you open up a brand new GreenFox file, you'll get this welcome form or window that looks like this over here on the right. And what you would do is click this big blue button that says upgrade an existing GreenFox League spreadsheet. And basically click that and then follow the instructions. And what the instructions are pretty much would be, open up your existing league spreadsheet and leave it in the background, and then click the upgrade button on the new spreadsheet on the league sheet, and it'll find your old sheet and ask if you want to upgrade it. It's quite simple. And an important thing down here is during the upgrade process, it doesn't make any changes to your original GreenFox spreadsheet that contains all your league data. So if something were to happen and it didn't work right, you still have your old original GreenFox League spreadsheet to use. Because it really all, as it says here, it's simply copying your league data from your existing spreadsheet into the newer version spreadsheet. So it's very safe. This simple slide is a question of how to use it. And I'm not going to say there's just one way to use it, but I would think the most common might be to interactively keep score of your game in real time using the spreadsheet. And that's what I do, but that doesn't mean that's how you have to do it. And you can use real dice or use the GreenFox e-dice. That's up to you. But so that's one way, is just play your game in front of or next to your computer and kind of keep score on the GreenFox score sheet as you go. Another way is to, as we kind of talked about in that multi-user version, but even if you're not multi-user, you could just play your games, keep score on paper or something else, and then later enter those results into the GreenFox score sheet. You can't just enter the resulting stats. You have to enter it, plate appearance by plate appearance. You have to fill in the score sheet and then let GreenFox compute the stats. Or you could use a combination of 1 and 2, as play some games like number 1 or some games like number 2. So, what does it cost? It doesn't cost, I'll say it's free. Money-wise, it's free to get the spreadsheet and all upgrades. But it does, in order to get it, you need to have a Facebook account. Either you have your own or know a friend who has one, because that's the only way I distribute the spreadsheet. And it's not that I'm a big Facebook fan, but it's a convenient way to have a little community on the Facebook group and to distribute the files. And I don't want to have to be sending files out to people individually with email or anything else. So it's really just a matter of efficiency and convenience. And it doesn't cost anything to have a Facebook account. So you'll also need a full version of Excel. GreenFox does not work on Google Sheets or OpenOffice or any other spreadsheet program that I'm aware of. And the reason it doesn't is because of the programming behind it. It's using kind of Microsoft Excel programming. And another thing I put here at the bottom with a question mark is a big computer screen. I mean, my own experience is the bigger the screen you have to use GreenFox with, the better it is. People use it on laptops. Some people use it on a really large screen. It's up to you. But I find it's the more I can see on the score sheet, especially, the better it is. GreenFox support. One thing I want to say is, one is, as I put here at the top, you're not alone. Don't give up if on your first attempt you run into problems. I know it seems like GreenFox has a lot of functionality and maybe it's daunting, but I really think it's not that hard once you get started. As far as different ways to get help, you can post a question or a problem on the GreenFox Facebook group. I'd highly recommend watching many of the videos on YouTube because they're really, I think, helpful. You can email me at greenfoxspreadsheet@gmail.com. You can just ask a question, but it's almost always best, along with your question, is to attach a copy of your spreadsheet when you can, because that way I can actually open up and look at a copy of your spreadsheet and really understand what you're trying to do, or maybe I can reproduce the problem. Another way I try to help out users is to arrange for an online meeting where we can maybe share a screen one way or the other and talk about or demonstrate what's going on, or where you're getting an error, or where you get stuck. Those are usually quite productive. I don't do them all the time, but I try to work with some flexibility in my schedule so that I can try to make time periodically to help somebody out. The last thing I'll say, which is in caps down there, is like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be embarrassed or whatever. There's a lot going on the spreadsheet, and that's really what makes it good. But I know it can be confusing, and sometimes it's not obvious what to do next or why it's not working the way you think it should. So don't be afraid. And also, I'm always open and interested to hear what ideas users may have to make it better, both if you find a bug or find something that you think is broken, but are also just ideas that you think will make it better. I think all feedback is good, so don't be bashful. Well, that pretty much wraps up the main content of this series of videos on the in-depth functionality of the GreenFox baseball spreadsheet. I do want to end on a couple screens of just showing some feedback, I guess you'd call them testimonials, from actual GreenFox users that were kind enough to write these, as well as allow me to use them in this video. And I won't read them through here. I'll let you pause your video and read it at your convenience. But I think they all offer a little different perspective on how they use the spreadsheet and how it's, I would say, improved or their enjoyment of their baseball projects. So here's a couple more with a little more detail, but I think the important thing is, as mentioned in the second one here with the bold text of, don't be afraid, I guess is my parting shot, is give it a try. If you're not sure what to do, reach out for support. I'm happy to help, or other users are happy to help. But I think it's mature enough now that it can handle many different projects and help you really have a lot more fun with your project by putting more of your time toward playing the games and looking over your stats that you've generated, as opposed to tallying up and painstakingly keeping track of your stats. And that was the whole point of creating the GreenFox spreadsheet. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and hopefully it'll help your baseball gameplay and help you get more enjoyment out of it.